So I have 6 pounds, 3 kilos of these lovely Seville oranges that are only in season end of January, very beginning of February, and 4 lemons. I'm going to cut them in half and juice them, all of them, in my juicer, my Magimix. Of course, you can do this by hand, but this is a great time-saving. So I've juiced all these oranges now. The juice is still in the Magimix, and all the pips and things are in the top. I'm going to save those because those are going to go in a muslin bag, and the juice is going to go in a saucepan. So now I'm removing the membrane from inside the orange. I do that with a teaspoon and then just pull it out. And so you're still left with some of the pith, and on some of them you've got the ends here. You want to remove those because I'm going to put those oranges in the Magimix to chop up, and you don't want these bits in your marmalade. So I've got all the membranes for the inside of the oranges and lemons here, and all the pips. Now it's very important because the pith and the pips contain pectin, and it's the pectin which will set your marmalade. So it is very important to reserve these and put them in a muslin in your pan. This just prevents pips getting into your marmalade. Just going to gather the corners of the muslin together, and then I will tie those with a piece of string. So I've got 5 litres of water in the saucepan with the juice and the muslin bag of pith and pips, and then I'm going to cut up some julienne strips if you wanted to have strips of pith in your marmalade. You just do that like this, and you can make them as short or as long as you would like to. I'm going to do chunky marmalade because my family like chunky marmalade. So I'm going to put my oranges and pith all in the Magimix for the Magimix to chop up. So I have a small amount of the outside of the orange already in the Magimix, and then with the motor running I'm going to add the rest, and then I'm going to keep an eye on it until it's chopped up to the consistency and the size chunks that I would like my marmalade. So this is now all chopped up to the sort of consistency and that I like my marmalade. So I'm going to put that in the saucepan with the water and the bag of membrane, and then I'm going to bring that up to the boil, and I'm going to simmer that for about 2 hours until all the peel is nice and tender. So the juice and the peel has all been simmering for 2 hours in the agar, and all the peel is now nice and soft. You can press it and it's nice and soft. So I'm going to find the bag. So I'm going to fish out the bag of pips and pith and drain out. Then I'll just put that to cool for 10 minutes or so, and then I'll squeeze it out with my hands to get all the pectin, as much pectin out of the pips and pith as possible to aid setting. So the bag of pips has cooled down a bit, so I can now handle them, and I'm just in a separate bowl. I'm just going to squish them out to see if there's any juice left in there. No, I think I've squished out all the juice, but any. So I'm bringing the juice and pith back up to the boil, and I'm going to add my sugar. I've got 5.5 kilos or 12 pounds of sugar, and I've actually had this in my Arga warming through so that it's not cold going into the orange mixture. You don't want to add it too quickly because otherwise it'll spit at you. Stir that in, dissolving away, pour in the rest of the sugar. This is going to make about 20 jars of marmalade. So I'm just going to stir that until the sugar's dissolved, bring it back up to the boil, and then I'm going to boil it until setting point is reached. So the sugar will start to caramelise and send the marmalade a deeper, richer colour. And I'll use my jam thermometer here. You can see, and that's the setting point. So when the thermometer comes up to the jam setting, I'll know that it's nearly ready, and I've put a plate in the fridge so that I can test a little bit of the marmalade on a plate nearer the time, and I'll show you that. So I've just hooked my thermometer onto the pan with a meat hook so it doesn't slip, and I can see it's now come up to jam setting point. So I'm now going to try what's known as the flake test. So I'm going to get a plate from the fridge. So my marmalade is ready now to take off the heat. I can tell this because of the changing colour, and also if you hold your spoon up, it's now dripping less quickly off the spoon, and also by using the flake test. So this bowl has been in the fridge, and I put a little bit of marmalade in the bowl, and then you could just see it starting to hold a thread in the bowl, which means the marmalade's ready to take off and pot. So I'm going to remove it from the heat, and I'm going to leave it to stand for a good 10 minutes before I put it in the jars. This will mean that the bits of peel will stay even throughout the jar. If I was to pot it straight away, then the peel would rise to the top of the jar. So I've got 24 washed jars here that I'm going to put into my Arga in the simmering oven, or you put in a conventional oven at 150 degrees C to sterilise, and I'll put the lids in as well. Lids in as well. We start by filling the jars about a third in the bottom of the jam jar first. So I've done about a dozen jars, a third full, and then I'm going to go back and start to fill them up another third. They're now 2/3 full, and this just helps with evenly distributing the peel through your marmalade. And then I'll go back to the first ones and fill that right up to the top. Okay. So it's now ready to have the lid put on. Screw that on firmly, and then the heat will create a seal, and you may hear in about an hour's time the lids start to pop. You'll hear a pop as the seal is created on the jar of marmalade. You see that the peel is evenly distributed through the jar.